Hello, good morning everybody. My name is Cale Casey, one of the information officers with the Alaska team on the McCash Fire. It is Wednesday, the 29th of September, beautiful day here in Orleans at the command post. This is another one of those live breaking it down sessions. We have a special guest, Erica Lamb, here. And before I introduce her, just a reminder that we have 608 firefighters still engaged on the fire. Containment increased again to 53% yesterday. We were able to get some blackline on this area by observing no growth and no heat for the last several weeks, which is great. And then also, it's 93,244 acres, mostly smoldering, very cool temperatures here today, and of course it's still wet out there in the fire line. Now, to introduce Erica Lamb, she'll come up. Erica is a resource advisor liaison, and what that means is, it's actually kind of a unique position on the fire where we have all these different suppression activities, but very important cultural values, cultural sites, and then of course the suppression repair piece. So I'll let Erica introduce herself.
Hi everyone, Erica Lamb, Resource Advisor Liaison for the Alaska team. So it is a unique position, not all the teams carry it, but my role is really to make sure that there's communication between the team and our operational staff, our liaisons, even logistics and resource advisors, and here on the McCash Fire, the Karuk tribe. So the two groups that I'm working really closely with are the resource advisors, and those are people that come in with really special skills such as things like hydrology, forestry, wilderness areas, heavy equipment. And those folks work with operations as they're putting lines in, and now as we've moved into suppression repair, as we clean things up. So I make sure that the communication with them and the operational staff is going, that the GIS needs are met. And then here, we're also working really closely with the Karuk tribe. So I work closely with Vicki Preston, who has been doing the morning briefing every morning, and her staff of Karuk heritage consultants. And those are folks that are local to here and have, really important knowledge about cultural sites, archaeological sites, and areas on the fire that we want to make sure we aren't impacting with suppression activities or repair activities, and that we're doing it in a way that's really respectful.
Okay, great. We'll jump into the more of the dialogue part here. Thanks for that intro. I've been fighting fire for 15 years. Firefighters are very mission driven. You give them a piece of fire line to put in and they want to go get it and get it in. These days we've learned to slow down, go slow to go fast, and make sure that we're not doing any additional damage to especially cultural sites. And these lands are ancient, right? I mean, the continuous habitation, the Karuk people for 8,000 years, some of the sites 3,000 years, continuously till now. So all around here are special places. How do the firefighters know where they are?
So there's two ways. There's two areas on the map that we actually have marked off on the operational maps as areas we really want to make sure that we're not doing anything like dropping retardants. So those are on the maps that every operational staff is carrying out on the ground. But really the more important way that we're making sure that those impacts aren't happening, or if we're doing repairs that we're addressing any impacts that inadvertently happened, is we have resource advisors and then Karuk heritage consultants out on the ground every day. They're tying in with division supervisors, with heavy equipment bosses. They are walking every inch of line that's out there and really making sure that firefighters both know what needs to happen and understand why we're asking them to do those things.
And so these folks are trained up. They're part of the Greens Pants Nation, right? They have the fire boots, the packs.
Yes, yeah, totally. They are indistinguishable in the morning at briefing. They look like firefighters. They're in Nomex, they're in boots, they're carrying the right equipment. But in addition to that, they are carrying the knowledge and the communication skills to really tell the story to other firefighters of what we're asking for.
And so over the last few days, I've been able to sit in these meetings, and it really is a locally driven effort that you just help facilitate to make sure there's no regrets, that there's nothing that was missed, right?
Yeah, so my job, which is a little bit unique, not every team carries this resource advisor liaison role, is just to make sure that we're not missing any information and that there's no communication gaps, both between folks that are communicating here at ICP and then also out on the line. So I make sure that the operational chiefs and the division supervisors are really clear on what their mission is and what their concerns are from the Karuk heritage consultants, and then also that those folks are getting information on where operational staff are thinking that they're going in the future so that we can be proactive.
Great, and then just to deep dive and break this down, In the past, we see maps that say retardant avoidance zones or special species avoidance zones, and they're mapped and they're shared. In sensitive areas where tribal activity has been continuous for thousands of years, I just want to make sure everybody knows we do not publish those type of locations. These are sacred to the tribes, to their history, to their people, and that is not shared out publicly.
Absolutely. So even a different system is used. The resource advisors that are collecting information on things like forestry, they use one system, and that's the one that addresses and that shows up on the map. So all that information is addressed in one system, and it gets put out on the maps every day. But anytime we have archaeological or cultural concerns, we really want to make sure that we're not publishing where those sites are, so that we don't attract traffic to it. And so that information is shared locally on the ground, and we don't put it into the electronic system.
And we opened up saying that firefighters are mission driven, duty, integrity, honor, those are our values. So now they have two metrics for success, right? They have a job well done, getting that fire contained, protecting Syad and Happy Camp and all Cottage Grove and all the areas. But then they have another place they can be proud. They can be proud of having done it right and having not interfered or trampled or impacted these cultural sites. Have you been able to see them out there kind of be proud of that?
Yeah, definitely. Historically, I think we've talked about values at risk really to mean properties or structures. And here we're really hearing from crew heritage consultants that are out on the ground that the values at risk that are really important to them, which are sometimes they're not a property or a house that is easily seen, that they are really feeling like the Alaska team and firefighters on the ground have done a fantastic job making sure that we respect those areas and the communication about those areas.
So we just want to make sure folks at home get these chances to get a little bit behind the curtain. We know you've had questions about whether the water balls will be put in and whether they'll last throughout the season. Those will be a long-term impact, right? When the water bar goes in, you're really trying to prevent erosion, invasive species, and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, so as we've moved into the suppression repair part of the operation, we're really making sure that anytime we had heavy equipment out on the ground, so dozer lines or traffic on roads or put in a hand line, that we're not just walking away and leaving those. So that's where the resource advisors come in with expertise in things like hydrology or heavy equipment use. And so they make sure that those water bars are put in a way where they're going to last and they're really going to do the job of preventing erosion, and that we're going to leave this area in as good of shape as we can so that it can be continued to be enjoyed by people who live here and people who come to visit.
And then for your really savvy fire audience out here, because we know a lot of you have been Forest Service careers or hotshots, jumpers, firefighters, or families thereof, all part of the Green Pants Nation. This is part of the suppression efforts. And then there's also going to be a burned area emergency response team, and that's going to be also looking at the prescription to stabilize, and they come in after, right?
Yeah, so how it works is there's kind of two phases to the repair phase. There's suppression repair, and that is what we're doing right now. And we're really focused on impacts that are related to suppression. So that is where and the firefighters went in and they used heavy equipment or they used tools or just had a lot of boots on the ground even. But the suppression repair piece isn't really trying to address some of the impacts that came from the fire itself. And that's where the Burned Area Emergency Response, which is commonly called BEAR team, comes in, and they do wide-scale studies on some of the impacts and then how those can be addressed. And those are typically a little bit of longer-term impacts and potentially larger-scale repair efforts.
So some of the folks we've talked to on the phone and in town at our trap lines, and we do appreciate these conversations, we appreciate your kindness, have said they're worried about the floods. We know, for example, in Colorado this year, the impacts of the Grizzly Fire to the Interstate 70 were seen internationally because it closed down the route for weeks after the mud and debris came down from the fire last year. Those are similar concerns these days. That's going to be after we leave, right? So we have a team transition on Saturday. California Incident Management Team 10, a Type 2 team locally here, will be assuming command on Sunday. And then sometime in their phase, I imagine that the BEAR team will come in.
Yeah, so the BEAR team will come in, and the BEAR team, much like the resource advisors, comes in with like a wide range of specialties. So often someone who has soils expertise and hydrology expertise, and they'll really do a big assessment of the entire firescape. And so they're going to look at things like severity, do we have mosaic patterns out there, and where are those impacts going to come to the roadways and waterways and areas that people rely on for things like drinking water or fish habitat. And so that effort will come a little bit later. Usually the bear team comes in after the fire is fairly well contained to look at what needs to happen on the whole fire as a whole.
And covering them over the years, I've been able to do some videography for bear teams. They bring in these road engineers as well, right? And they're looking to see if they can get culverts resized if need be, because I know that a lot of locals are worried. What if our roads wash out, then we won't be able to get to our favorite place to go hunt or hike or camp or what have you. And again, that'll be something that we don't necessarily report out on, but that will hopefully happen after we leave.
Yeah, so the bear team will look at whether or not we've got the potential for increased flooding or increased runoff, where we do want to make sure that things like culverts are being sized a little bit bigger. And they'll also spend a lot of time talking with local scientists and local Forest Service employees, so road engineers and hydrologists that really have a fantastic understanding of this area. They'll rely on some of that knowledge as well to make sure that their report and their recommendations really cover the scale and impacts that are going to be specific to this area.
Great, thank you. So to kind of summarize, Erica's been supporting making sure that the Krug tribe and all their values and cultural sites are protected. The firefighters take a lot of pride in that, and it's going well. The bear team will be coming in after the Alaska team leaves, and our last day is Saturday. And then also, we just want to let you know that we put some of the photos on the trap line of some of the burn aerial photography. That's also on YouTube, and we've been trying to post them to Facebook regularly so that you as locals can start to see some of those patterns. You can start seeing the new normal. We're trying to be as transparent as possible because this is your backyard, and boy, is it beautiful. It's been an honor for us to be here. Thanks for having us, Erica, or thanks for joining us, Erica. And we'll go ahead, and Cassie behind the camera, are there any other questions? Okay, if you have any questions, whether it's live or on the rebroadcast, as always, post them here. We're here to serve you. Thank you so much.